Hello, and welcome to my inability to accept a challenge if I think that challenge might entail me being able to argue that Smeagol is awful and should have been killed off. So a few days ago, my buddies at Next Issue Podcast were talking about something I don't remember, but I brought up that Smeagol / Gollum, who I will henceforth be referring to as Smallum, should have been killed off. Mean? Perhaps. But I think I have a lot of logic behind this argument that I am going to attempt to make in a way that seems sensible. Maybe? Hard words for me. I'm gonna try it. Now, if it seems like I'm reading off notes, it's because I am. Here's my thing. These arguments I'm going to make can go for really any character. Obviously, I'm going to be using specific nuanced examples from Tolkien's writings, but the idea of backing why the argument is being made can be made for any story. So J.R.R. Tolkien's classic Lord of the Rings is brimming with characters. One might go so far as to say overflowing with characters. So many of these characters are given very rich and interesting descriptions, making them very memorable and important to the story. That's kind of the crux. When writing a story, an author should keep in mind what is and is not necessary to the plot and the plot's themes. It's okay to kill your darlings. In fact, sometimes you should. I think we can all think of a character in a book series or a TV series that kind of overstayed their welcome. And then it became part of the writer's, job to just contrive all of this ridiculous nonsense to keep them important to the plot when they should have just killed them off. I'm not saying this is exactly Jim Hopper, but a lot of it's Jim Hopper. Sometimes it's better to just kill them off. It just is. But some characters just become so beloved by the author or the fans that they end up being on the page or screen just longer than they need to be. For instance, I love Tom Bombadil, who can be seen mostly in this book. But I'll be the first to admit that his part in Fellowship could easily have been written out and it wouldn't change the story at all. I don't think he should be written out or killed off, though, because he leaves the story naturally before overstaying his welcome. Smallum, I argue, overstayed his welcome without providing anything necessary to the plot or its themes. So, to look at a character, you need, and whether or not you should, remove them from the story, you need to look at their purpose. So what is Smallum's purpose of the story? What purpose does he serve, right? He's used to show the corruption and the addictive power of the One Ring. He is used kind of as a time capsule to explain where the One Ring has been from Isildur's passing until Bilbo gets it in The Hobbit. You can't see the title because my hand's covering it. He tells the orcs or Sauron, he tells someone at Mordor where the ring is. You can hear this in the film, for instance, when he's screaming Shire Baggins. Later he teams up with Frodo and Samwise on their journey to Mordor and leads them to Mount Doom, so he serves as a map. And lastly, he's used to illustrate Frodo and Samwise's kind nature through their forgiveness and repeated sparing of his life. I don't contend Smallum should be written out of Tolkien's writings in his entirety. For instance, I do think he works in The Hobbit quite well. But as it pertains to The Lord of the Rings, all three books, I don't think he needs to be in all three of these. I think, in fact, he should have been killed off when the orcs get him after revealing where the One Ring is in the Fellowship. And then maybe utilized in flashbacks. And that's it. He would still then serve as the timeline for the ring and an explanation as to why the ring wraiths know to go to the Shire, even though that's not even necessary because Frodo keeps putting on the freaking ring, so they can then sense his presence and would know to go there regardless. But whatever, story. Leaving him in the story, or leaving him out of the story at that point, then opens up the story to be a little more interesting, so just stick with me. So, picture it, Middle-earth, the Second Age. It's the last alliance of elves and men. It's the end of the siege of Barad-dûr. Isildur has cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand, thus defeating the enemy. Elrond leads Isildur up to Mount Doom to cast the One Ring into its birthplace, the only place with which it can be destroyed. Isildur freaking says no, turns heel, and leaves the volcano with his new evil ring, aka a Horcrux, on finger, with Elrond just standing by, looking on in horror, literally doing nothing, just allowing him to leave with the One Ring, as if he has learned nothing from Meglor and the Oath of Fëanor. Out of everyone, Isildur is allowed to leave because of Elrond? Elrond leaves. No. I think that was, no. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Isildur has the One Ring. He dies. The One Ring rolls into the lake, river, whatever, stream. It's found by a pair of stewards. Long story short, Sméagol ends up with the One Ring, and on his birthday. Oh yeah, and rest in peace. Sorry for your loss of that cousin that you murdered or whatever. Sméagol lives for centuries with the One Ring as he slowly loses his sanity and, I don't know, any sort of morals he had. And thus Gollum is born, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, through the course of The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, the bravest little hobbit of them all, he riddled with a Gollum and a magic ring he stole. He's the bravest little hobbit of them all. Cut to his 111th and Frodo's 33rd joint birthdays. Bilbo takes off for Rivendell, leaving the One Ring to Frodo at Gandalf's insistence. Thus, this story can commence. You know the story. Right here, there's a fellowship composed of a king who's rejecting his title, the son of the steward who's sitting on the throne of said future king, an elf, dwarf, 4 hobbits, and whatever the Gandalf is. I do sense another theme. Is my theme senses tingling? Why, yes. Yes, it is. I dare say so. Friendship and camaraderie amongst different types of folks. Elves, men, dwarves, hobbits, working together against another common enemy. Heck yeah! Bonds of friendship. One might go so far as to say fellowship. Is definitely a very important theme to The Lord of the Rings and is a pervasive theme amongst Arthurian legends, which Tolkien was heavily inspired by when writing The Lord of the Rings. Additionally, is very much inspired by war itself, specifically World War I. I mean, also World War II, but World War I because Tolkien had been a soldier at that time. Yeah. So Sméagol, does he further these themes here? Well, he's definitely not a friend. He could serve as a third party that isn't on either side, but is out for themselves. And therefore kind of accidentally working with the enemy, though not intentionally. He could serve as this sort of like moral gray area. But does anyone else work maybe a little better in this moral gray area? Maybe Faramir, younger brother of Boromir and son of Denethor II, steward of Gondor. Maybe even Denethor II himself could be an example. So maybe Gollum is the best character for that purpose, but that purpose really just isn't essential. It doesn't really add anything to deepen the story because while Sméagol is acting in his own interests, it's only because of the corruption of the One Ring. And we see so many other characters corrupted by the One Ring, tempted by it, ruined by it. Sméagol is just one example of so many. Therefore, his importance to this illusion to the power of the One Ring is cannibalized by all those others. Such examples include, though are not limited to, Sauron, Isildur, the Ring, Wraiths, Bilbo, Frodo, Gandalf, Galadriel, Boromir, Faramir, la 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 la. So Frodo even sees how the One Ring tempts and corrupts many of these characters himself. So he does get this very prominent impression of what the One Ring can do to him in the future if he continues to allow himself to be further enticed by its power. So Sméagol isn't even essential in that aspect either. As for being a map, well, Faramir can do that. Or the hobbits can just simply get there themselves. Like, Sauron isn't blocking the road to Mordor. He wants them to go there because that's where he is. So, like, the map really isn't required. Like, they can just take a long road there. It's not like the path isn't kind of obvious. You can see the place you're going. It's the big, tall mountain with the eye. Like, you could see even the back road, you can see. I don't think he's necessary as a map. It's an easy rewrite. So now to Mount Doom. Now, sit down, buckle up. I have feelings. Samwise carries Frodo. Well, okay, let's be clear. He carried him throughout the whole story. But specifically, he physically carries him up to Mount Doom so that he can throw the One Ring into the fire. What happens? This freaking hobbit pulls in Isildur. Ridiculous boy. He decides not to cast the One Ring into the fire, slips that bad boy back on, and goes invisible. That's when Sméagol comes in. There's a fight. Sméagol bites off Frodo's finger. He gets the One Ring for himself, falls over the cliff and into the lava? It's lava, right? Lava? Yeah. Anyway, so he falls in and he is killed along with his precious, the One Ring. Is that necessary? No, it's not. Hear me out. So Frodo and Samwise are in Mount Doom. Frodo walks away from the fire with the One Ring, showing that he's been fully corrupted by it. Now it's Sam who has to fight him. Not in anger, not in possessiveness, not in obsession, which is what Gollum was doing. Samwise is doing this out of love. He has to fight his best friend to save him. It's Sam who has to bite off Frodo's finger, and they fight over it. And the One Ring goes over the edge and falls into the fire and is ultimately destroyed. This echoes the original scene with Isildur and Elrond, but this time it's not with two battle-weary comrades, but it's juxtaposed by the friendship between Samwise and Frodo, and a scene that would deepen this theme of friendship. And it makes their arc more fulfilled by removing the third wheel, that is Sméagol. And Sméagol is a third wheel. He is, in the entire story. Unnecessary third wheel. Plus, like George said, it rhymes. Having two scenes that almost mirror each other to bookend a story creates this cohesion that's just cooler. It just is. I don't have any science or research to back it up. It's just simply good storytelling. So in conclusion, there is nothing that Sméagol has to offer as a character that other characters don't already provide to the story, and in a better way. He's not necessary, and it really just comes down to taste. I personally find his character annoying, and in the film unwatchable, in the book unreadable. He's annoying. I skip him, always. I vote to let the orcs kill him in Fellowship, and let that final scene be between Frodo and Samwise, the way it should have been. Thanks for listening. Feel free to leave your opinion. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you agree. And let me know. I'll leave a link below if you don't know what he sounds like. Andy Serkis was definitely just doing a Gurgi impression. It's the same voice. And I hate it. I hate it so much. Kill Sméagol. Kill him.